Hey everybody, welcome to SwJ. Today we're picking up where we left off last time, working on my genes project. We're going to talk about being an optimist in a negative world. Because last time I spoke about optimism and how it can make you live longer and happier lives, and have especially less heart disease, and that can be a difficult thing when you're faced with a very negative world. To be an optimist when the news is constantly negative is a difficult thing, and we're going to figure out how to keep positive when the world can get to be a little more negative than you're used to. And I was going to say more negative than you can handle, but it's never the case. You can always deal with more. You're never tested beyond your limits. You can handle it. It feels like you can't sometimes, and your mind tells you that you can't. For me, very often. But you can. You just have to find the way. Now, after that very overly dramatic and way too serious opening for a Friday, well, video will be released on a Friday. I try not to mention days of the week, dates, anything like that. But how do you cope in a slightly negative world? While I try to focus my rambling. First thing that you can do, and I know it's kind of what's the right word? A stereotype, very stereotypical British thing. I'm not British, but it is a very stereotypical British thing. Wow, tongue is not working today. First day with a new one. But the British way of dealing with stress is to put the kettle on, and it works. Not just the act of stopping what you're doing, focusing on something else, the patience involved in boiling water, steeping tea. It's a ritual. It puts you in a better mind space. It distracts you from what you're doing, because you have to figure out what kind of tea you like. Where did I put the tea bags? Did I clean the kettle last time? Those sort of things. And just takes your mind off of it a little bit, but also gives you time to think about it at the same time, if you choose to. Gives you both. Sitting there waiting for the kettle to boil, get lost in your thoughts, whatever you were doing, whatever you're thinking about, and then all of a sudden the water's boiling and you have a distraction, something to do. So it can break up that thought process when you're too stuck on something. Another thing you can do to remain optimistic is to move towards positive social media, which, if you're watching this video, you're doing. And thank you for supporting me in my attempt to bring the positive news forth. So watch your good news, watch your funny videos, watch your cat videos, watch motivational speakers. I think the biggest one that I enjoy are the motivational speakers that really work. There aren't that many, but there are some good ones out there. Another way is to do something positive. If you want to feel positive, do something that is positive for either yourself or the environment or your neighborhood or the entire earth, whatever you want. Volunteer, plant plants, reach out to your friends. Um, get involved with volunteer organization, like I said, like soup kitchen or a church group or anything like that. Um, and I wrote down pray. If you have faith, pray. If not, meditate. You know, spend your time thinking on the subject. Um, but a lot of people pray, and that's a good way to do it. Another way to stay optimistic is to take a deep breath. And there is science behind this. Just stopping and taking a deep breath, it releases or reduces the release of adrenaline, and increases dopamine, and that equals clearer thinking. One thing with media, you have to read more than just the headlines. If you just scan the news and see all these terrible headlines, you make assumptions. Your mind jumps to conclusions for you very quickly, and it's usually the most negative thing that your mind will go to. So if you do decide to delve into the news, read the articles. Don't just read the headlines, because a lot of the times a catchy clickbait title won't be nearly as bad as what you immediately think it is. And that's what it's designed for. That's what headlines are for. It's to catch your attention, to make you think something that maybe isn't real. And then you need to actually read the news story. Because otherwise you'll spend your days in a very, very negative place. The way I have it written here is negative assumptions make news worse than it is before we give the facts a chance. Another way to keep the optimism? Sleep. Just rest. If you have a tough decision or everything's going wrong, like whatever happened with that stitch, not quite sure what happened there. I'll try that again. If you have a tough decision to make, if you're faced with a lot of negativity from other sources, and you have something that comes at you and you just can't deal with it, just rest, sleep. Sometimes that's the only way you can do it. I hooked onto some strands from the other side. That's what was happening there. There's a saying that if you look at something with a fresh set of eyes, often it looks different. And I think that's very true, because you can get yourself all worked up over something, and maybe it's just cumulative stress from the day that, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say, and you woke up the next morning thinking about it again, and immediately wonder to yourself, why was I so stressed out about this? It's not really that big of a deal. And it's just because everything's processed while you sleep. Or sometimes you just think of a solution because you don't have all those other things distracting you. You don't have someone leading you down the wrong path before you can even think something. It's like your mind jumping to conclusions. Your mind can jump to a conclusion that absolutely isn't real, and if you realize that and process it overnight, a lot of the times it looks a whole lot different in the morning, and a whole lot better in the morning. One thing that I hadn't really thought about was with staying optimistic or just keeping positivity or just coping with negativity. I think would be one thing that I need to talk about a little bit on this part of it, and that is when you shake. Like if your body trembles and shakes, a lot of people will try to hold that in, to let it out. That's your body's reaction to stress. You've got all this adrenaline coursing through you suddenly, and your body needs to let it out. So if you shake and tremble at bad news, let it happen. Don't hold it in. It actually calms the body, relaxes the body, warms the body, and releases the stress and allows us to find a new balance. So if you are the type that does shake and really, if it bothers you and you hold it back in, when you get the chance, let it out. Let all that go, and it's actually calming to the autonomic system. I think that's the word. I think that's the right one. Yeah, just lets you relax and find a new balance, and that's the biggest thing. The big thing in life is balance. And just be ready for when news hits you, because it doesn't always hit you right away. If you watch something, think about something, learn something, hear news, whatever it is, and you don't always have time to process it fully at that time. So, or your mind doesn't. You don't allow yourself to, and just be ready for when that does happen. And be aware that if you've been through a traumatic experience, if you've been through something, you are going to react, and just be prepared for it, and don't suppress it when you do have time to deal with it in an emotionally healthy way. When you can let it out. And I shouldn't say waiting for time. I should say just being more mentally prepared and mentally ready to cope with something. Once you are in a bit better place, then deal with it and let it out, and you'll be even better off. If you're recovering from any issues, any mental health issues, just let stuff out. And man, I lost my train of thought on that one. Yeah, just after that initial delay, like after you do ignore it for a while, just be ready for when it does hit you, because it'll happen, and just allow it to happen. Everyone goes through stages when there's a loss or a change or anything like that, and everyone deals with it in their own way, and you just need to be ready for how your emotions and body react to it, and then talk about it. One of the biggest things is expressing those feelings, expressing those emotions. Maybe don't talk about it all over social media, because you don't always want the feedback that you're going to get from that. It's not always the same type of feedback that you would get from a close personal friend. Don't get me wrong, people on Facebook are generally decent acquaintances, but you will get people on social media who don't agree with you or don't agree with something that you're saying, or just aren't real friends or aren't as sympathetic towards you in general, and they won't be a positive outlet for what you're saying. So keep it amongst friends, and I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about individual messaging, um, direct messaging, that sort of thing, not public messaging, because that can just make your entire world way worse when you bring things to a general audience, because people will misinterpret things, people will have wildly different points of view and not understand your situation. So keep it on the down low, like they say, just keep it personal and get personal responses. And then if your friends are even telling you you're out of line, then maybe it is you. So anyway, yeah, expressing our feelings to others allows us to own them, and a lot of the times just hearing yourself say something will make you realize what you're thinking and whether it is absolutely right or absolutely wrong. So discussions, seeing something in black and white in text is like, whoa, did I really just say that? And then you can use that as a jumping point to start to heal. So hopefully that'll help somebody out there start to heal. Thanks so much for joining me. I do really appreciate the time we get to spend together. And till next time, keep chilling. Don't forget your cookie. Peace.